The silence of Blackhaven. It was a night when the relentless Seattle rain turned the world outside into a smear of grey and neon. Thomas Wake stared into his cold coffee, turning the yellowed envelope over in his hands for the 5th time. There was no stamp, no return address, just one word scrawled in hurried, jagged handwriting: Blackhaven. Thomas's heart skipped a beat. Blackhaven was a ghost town, a place that didn't exist on modern maps. 10 years ago, in 1995, the small mining town had been decommissioned overnight, declared a quarantine zone by the government. The official reason was a massive underground methane leak, but the locals knew better. That night, it wasn't gas that consumed the town. It was something else. Thomas had been born there. He was one of the few who made it out of the night of the collapse. But his sister, little Emily, she hadn't. He tore the envelope open. A single Polaroid fluttered onto the table. It showed Blackhaven's town square, the clock tower frozen forever at 03:00 a.m. On the back, written in red ink, was a single sentence: "They are still awake, Tom. Take me away." It was Emily's handwriting. Thomas's hands trembled. Emily had been declared dead 10 years ago, yet this letter had been slipped under his door this morning. He grabbed his coat and the keys to his old Ford. Logic screamed it was a trap, but hope, that cruelest of executioners, dragged him out the door. Part 2. The forgotten road Highway 101, cutting through the dense pine forests of Washington state, looked like the throat of a beast in the darkness. The rain intensified. The headlights cut through the gloom, illuminating the ancient pines that stood like silent sentinels watching him pass. Finding the turnoff to Blackhaven was difficult. The rusted sign was swallowed by overgrowth. As soon as his tires hit the old road, asphalt gave way to gravel and mud. The sound of the stones crunching under the wheels sounded disturbingly like breaking bones. After an hour, the fog rolled in. It wasn't normal fog. It was milky white, thick, and unnaturally warm. Thomas was forced to stop. A massive iron gate blocked the path ahead. Rusted letters spelled out, "Private property, no trespassing." But the gate was slightly ajar, as if expecting him. Thomas stepped out. The forest was silent, dead silent. No crickets, no wind, not even the sound of the rain hitting the leaves. He clicked on his flashlight. The beam cut through the fog like a pale lance. "Emily!" he called out. The forest swallowed his voice instantly. Suddenly, a sound came from the tree line. Not a snapping twig, but the wet, heavy sound of footsteps on mud. Slosh! Slosh! Thomas spun around. In the backlight of his car, a shadow stood in the middle of the road. It was humanoid, but wrong. Its arms were impossibly long, dragging down near its knees. Thomas held his breath. The shadow didn't move, yet he felt it watching him. He scrambled back into the car, locking the door. He turned the key. The engine sputtered. Click, 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 dead. Outside, the shadow began to glide toward the car. It didn't walk. It drifted through the fog. Thomas shone his light on it. The moment the beam hit the figure, it vanished. It didn't run away. It simply dissolved. Then came the sound on the roof. Thump, thump, thump. Something was crawling on top of the car. Thomas looked at the passenger window. Pressed against the glass, sliding down through the rain, was a pale, bloodless hand. It had 6 fingers. the radio suddenly hissed to life. Through the static, a high-pitched, childish voice spoke. "Tom, you came! We've been waiting so long!" It mimicked Emily, but the cadence was wrong. Artificial. Thomas slammed his fist onto the steering wheel and the engine roared to life. He floored the gas, the car fishtailing through the open gates and plunging into the heart of Blackhaven. Part 3. The clock tower. The town was a rotting carcass. Houses stood like decayed teeth along the main street. Windows were shattered. Doors hung off hinges. But the strangest thing was the clothes. Piles of clothing, shoes, jackets, hats lay scattered everywhere on the streets. It looked as if the people had simply evaporated, leaving their garments behind. Thomas skidded to a halt in the town square. The clock tower loomed above, its hands still locked at 03 Dojro. He stepped out, his hand gripping his service pistol. He was an ex-cop, and he never traveled unarmed. The air here smelled of copper and spoiled meat. "Emily!" he screamed. This time there was an answer. From inside the tower. Not a voice, but the screech of metal on metal. The tower door groaned open. A faint, sickly yellow light spilled out. Thomas entered. The stairs didn't go up, they went down. The walls of the stairwell were covered in charcoal drawings, eyeless figures, inverted crosses, and the long-armed creatures of the forest. From the bottom of the stairs came the sound of weeping. He descended into the basement. It opened into a wide chamber. In the center sat an old surgical table. On top of it sat a reel-to-reel tape recorder. The weeping was coming from the machine. Thomas approached. Next to the recorder was another photo. It was a picture of Thomas sitting in his car, taken just minutes ago. They were watching him. The tape stopped. Then it began to spin backward. A voice emerged from the shadows in the corner. "We warned you, Tom. Blackhaven doesn't like guests, but we love new vessels." Thomas raised his gun and fired into the dark. The muzzle flash illuminated a pale six-fingered hand reaching out. It clamped around his throat before he could scream. Part 4. The Weaver. The grip was like steel. As his vision blurred, Thomas kicked out, his foot knocking over a tray of rusted medical tools. His hand found a scalpel. He didn't hesitate. He slashed at the arm holding him. Rip! It sounded like tearing fabric, not flesh. The creature released him with a guttural hiss. Thomas fell, gasping, and shone his light. There was no blood on the floor, only a thick black sludge that moved on its own. He ran. He couldn't go back up. He could hear dozens of footsteps on the stairs now. The whole town had woken up. He sprinted deeper into the underground tunnels. He found a heavy steel door labeled Quarantine Zone B and threw himself inside, barring it shut. He was in a generator room. In the corner sat a crate of emergency road flares. He grabbed one, ready to strike it. Then the intercom on the wall crackled. "Tom, why did you leave me that night? It's so cold here." It was Emily's voice again. "I didn't leave you," Thomas yelled, tears stinging his eyes. "I went to get help." "Liar." The voice dropped an octave, becoming deep and mocking. "You ran to save your own skin. There was room in the car, Tom. You saw me under the rubble, and you drove away." The truth hit him like a physical blow. He had buried that memory for 10 years. He had run. "I'm here now," Thomas whispered. "I'm here to take you home." "Then come down. We are waiting at St. George's Hospital." Part 5. Room 302. Thomas found a sewer route that led directly to the hospital basement. The walls here seemed to breathe, pulsing with a faint bioluminescent moss. He emerged in the morgue. It was freezing. The drawers were all open and empty. On a desk lay a leather-bound book, the Journal of Dr. Archimandrite. Thomas scanned the pages. October 12, 1995. The miners found something deep down, an ancient temple. They worship a deity called the Weaver. It feeds on pain. November 15th, 1995. The Weaver is here. The fog is its breath. Emily Wake. She is the strongest vessel. We must sacrifice her to contain it. Thomas slammed the book shut. They hadn't tried to save her. They had fed her to the monster. Music began to play over the hospital PA system. A scratchy, distorted 1940s jazz track, "I Don't Want to Set the World on Fire." He climbed to the 3rd floor, the pediatric ward. Room 302. The door was ajar, a soft pink light emanating from within. Thomas pushed it open. The room was pristine, untouched by time. And there, sitting on the bed looking out the window, was a little girl with golden braids. Emily. She turned slowly. It was Emily, still 10 years old. But her eyes were gone, replaced by hollow black voids. And her mouth was sewn shut with thick black twine. Yet her voice echoed directly in his mind. "You are late, brother. The Weaver is already wearing me." The walls of the room began to melt, revealing black sticky webs. A massive shadow detached itself from the ceiling. "You aren't Emily!" Thomas screamed, raising the flare. "My sister died." "Death?" The mental voice laughed. "There is no death in Blackhaven, only transformation. We needed your blood to finish the ritual, Tom. The blood of the betrayer." The girl's skin split open like a cocoon. From within, Emily, burst a creature of nightmare-elongated limbs, bone-white skin, and sharp, needle-like protrusions. Thomas struck the flare. The blinding red magnesium fire lit up the room. The creature shrieked, recoiling from the light. Thomas threw the flare directly at it. The creature's dry, papery skin caught fire instantly. Thomas turned and ran. The hospital erupted in flames behind him. He blasted his way through the corridors, shooting at the shadows lunging from the patient rooms. He burst through the glass doors of the entrance, diving onto the wet asphalt outside. Part 6. The Dawn. The rain had stopped. Thomas scrambled into his car. The engine roared to life. He sped toward the gates, the rearview mirror showing St. George's Hospital engulfed in an inferno. The fire turned the fog a hellish red. He hit Highway 101 doing 90 miles per hour. He didn't stop until the sun began to crest over the horizon. The sky turned a pale, safe blue. Thomas laughed, a manic, broken sound. He was alive. He had destroyed it. He rolled down the window to breathe the fresh morning air. The sun was blinding, so he flipped down the sun visor. He glanced at the vanity mirror on the visor. He expected to see his own exhausted face. Instead, reflected in the mirror sitting in the back seat was Emily. Her skin was charred black, smoke rising from her shoulders. She was smiling. Thomas felt 2 ice-cold hands clamp onto his shoulders. The radio static cut out, and Emily's whisper filled the car, not from the speakers, but right into his ear. "We will never be apart again, Tom. Blackhaven isn't a place. Blackhaven is you." Thomas tried to brake, but his legs wouldn't move. His hands were locked to the steering wheel by an invisible force. The car accelerated on its own, veering sharply off the road toward the cliff edge. The last thing Thomas saw was the beautiful Seattle sunrise, and the charred reflection of his sister smiling in the mirror. The end.